Many of you recognize in the current economic climate, you need a job. You may have rent, mortgage, student loan debt, stagnant wages, and the competition of what an estimated 8.5% unemployment rate brings to the job market. You've just finished a job interview that you believe went extremely well. You developed a solid rapport with the interviewer who stated he or she was very pleased with your qualifications, experience, and background. During the last part of the interview, you were asked, "May we please have your IDs and passwords to any social networking sites you may be a member of?" Think. What would you decide? Now think why. This demand has become an increasingly common situation with the explosion of social networks. Recently, a Michigan woman, Kimberly Hester, was fired from her teacher's aide position for a non-offensive picture posted on her private Facebook webpage. An administrator had been notified that the picture existed from a parent who was friends with Hester. She was called to the office where she was asked to give access to her Facebook page. She refused. She was asked another time. She refused again. She was put on leave. It also should be noted nothing concerning this issue took place on school time. Hester is currently on unpaid leave pursuing legal action against the firing with the support of the American Civil Liberties Union. The demand of employees asking for personal private account information violates the basic rights of all Americans, specifically due process, protection from discrimination, and freedom of choice, expression, and individuality. Due process legally cements the concept that innocence is recognized until proven otherwise. Due process was introduced into legal doctrine as part of the Magna Carta, charted in 1215. Several amendments of the Constitution, notably the 5th and 14th Amendment, reinforced the right of due process. However, it was the 9th Amendment that clarified and delineated citizens' rights of due process through the unenumerated rights based on the long-standing beliefs anchored in American tradition, history, and the liberties guaranteed by citizenship. Demanding access to private accounts of individuals has clear ramifications for the abuse of selective discrimination. Objective conclusion, rather than individual judgment, should be the basis of employment decision and has been legally protected by the Equal Opportunity Act. Freedom of expression, choice, and thought has always been a stalwart base of an American citizen's life and should not be left exposed to erosion. There are simple solutions to this creeping threat to privacy and individual freedoms. Citizens need to contact their elected representatives at the state and federal level to insist they pursue plain and explicit legislation banning the practice of employees requiring access to current or potential employees' private passwords and websites. In fact, several states have begun to engage this issue. Just weeks ago, the Maryland Senate unanimously passed a bill entitled the Labor and Employment Username and Password Privacy Protection and Exclusion Bill. It outlaws the practice of employers asking for access to current or potential employees' private passwords and websites. Michigan House Bill 5523 mirrors the content of the Maryland legislation and was associated with the Kimberly Hester case. Federally, both the House of Representatives and Senate have legislation under consideration of similar action to prohibit the practice. Privacy is a bedrock principle of a free American society. Protection of this right and freedom has been a guiding force throughout our history, and any weakening of this should be a grave concern and viewed as significant overreach of power. The influence of modern technology has generated many new situations and questions that need our reflection on the value of our underlying principles and beliefs. History has proven unequivocally that those in power will abuse liberties not protected. Let's go back to the introduction of this speech. Many of us would be forced to answer those questions based on economic pressures rather than ideologic values. That is intolerable and imprudent. At stake with these questions are some of the most fundamental doctrines of this country: that the individual has the right to privacy, that discrimination is wrong and that the individual has freedom of choice and expression. Taking action now can remove all doubt about what we stand for as a society and how those questions are answered.